Hi, everybody. So, for this week's assignment, we are tasked with discussing briefly literature reviews, what their role is in research, and also to touch upon the topic of research strategies for gathering resources for those literature reviews and really for scientific research as a whole. So, to get going, we'll start with an examination of what a literature review actually is. So, according to the Purdue Online Writing Laboratory, a literature review or a synthesis is a collection of data from various sources that are related to a given topic. This data is discussed, compared, contrasted, and examined together in order to form a greater and more thorough understanding of the implications of a given topic through increased data availability and population sample sizes. It's important to remember that when discussing literature reviews, the literature refers to the literature about a given topic, not literature as a whole as its own focus. This form of data synthesis is incredibly useful in both qualitative and quantitative research because it allows the researcher to determine what research has already been completed and if it's been made available for review to the greater public. And it also gives them the ability to be aware of what others have done in the past and prevent a researcher from unintentionally duplicating another researcher's work. This gives the researcher an understanding and insight needed to place a topic within a given logical frame, more so than what they would have if they simply reviewed one or a handful of studies on a given topic. Compiling this information requires a systematic approach to location, identification, and analysis of research documents that are focused on a given topic in order to be effective. So now that we've discussed the definition and the purpose of a literature review, let's move on to a demonstration of what effective and successful data selection would look like. For the purpose of this discussion, I'm going to focus my review on the topic of stroke-related cardiac imaging. So I'm going to kick over to my desktop now. Take it away, Chad. Oh, thanks, Chad. All right. So here we are on my computer. In order to begin our search for reliable data, we are going to navigate over to EBSCOhost from the West Virginia University of Parkersburg's online library. However, before we do that, we should probably identify a question that we're hoping to answer or elucidate on in some capacity with this research that we're going to do. So for this discussion, I'm going to be using a question in the PICOS format. That question is going to be, does standardized non-invasive cardiac imaging following the initial ischemic stroke a person has in their lifetime have a significant impact on the stroke-related readmission rates of a given hospital? So in this question, my population is individuals who've had their first stroke in their lives. Our intervention is going to be the utilization of cardiac imaging following that stroke. So again, images are cardiac imaging done only of individuals who have not had a stroke before. And this imaging we would focus on, and we would kind of narrow down later, but would more than likely be interested in patients that have received imaging within the stay where they were diagnosed with a stroke-related disorder. So in our PICOS format, the comparison would be to compare the individuals that did undergo this type of cardiac imaging with those that did not. The outcome that we're going to be comparing is the stroke-related readmission rates of each group. Time, and again, this one we don't necessarily have to use, but because we would eventually narrow down with this, we're going to say that time would be within the initial stay where the ischemic stroke diagnosis was made. So now that we have that question, we'll go ahead and get back to our research search. So I'm going to get my face off the computer rather, and jump over to our background here. All right, here we go. Okay, so here we are on the EBSCOhost page. So we're going to sign in with the credentials given to us by West Virginia University at Parkersburg. So let's go ahead and get in here. All right, so we're going to be using EBSCOhost today, but there are a variety of other resources available to you here if you wish to use them. So we're going to go ahead and jump on to the EBSCOhost website. Now here we are looking at various databases. So I don't want to go through all of these databases because we have things such as Business Source Elite, which is giving information on business publications. We've got criminal justice abstracts over here. A wide variety of information. It's a great resource, but right now we really just want to focus on healthcare related and stroke related databases. So we will go ahead and jump in and select some. We are going to go for our academic search complete list here because it offers a big, wide library of multidisciplinary text databases or text information. We're going to keep moving down there. There's some that might apply, but we're not going to use. So Alt Health Watch, we're not going to use because I'm not interested in alternative therapies. We're interested in very specific and tried and true therapies utilized in a relatively novel manner. So we'll go down through here and select a few more. I'm not going to explain these. They should be pretty obvious, but the Cyanol database, we'll move down through here. The ebook collection, so just full text of ebooks from EBSCOhost. Looking for a health source. Now, health source, we have a consumer edition and a nursing and academic edition. We're going to use the nursing and academic edition here for obvious reasons, but also because we want specifically to relate as much as possible to nursing and academics because we are currently nursing academics. All right, so moving on from there, the last one that we'll probably use is our consumer health reference ebook collection, which should be here somewhere. There we are, our consumer health reference ebook collection here. And again, just like the others, this is a collection of ebook titles that are all consumer health related. So less focused on the academic and scholarly side of things, but still a wonderful, wonderful resource. And I do think that that's probably going to be enough for us, so we'll go ahead and continue here. Now initially, or if you're not quite sure what you want to do with some information, but you know you want to keep a given topic, we can do a basic search. And a basic search here just uses a pre-standardized formatted search function to kind of give the broadest return of data while still being relevant to our topic. So we'll start with this, and I'm going to go really basic with my keywords. We're just going to say echocardiogram and stroke. We're interested in cardiac imaging, but especially in the context of this database search engine, using the phrase cardiac imaging would more than likely return invasive procedures as well, and we're not interested in any type of invasive procedures. We can make a decision later if we want to focus just on echocardiograms, which realistically in this scenario I probably would because that's the specific type of cardiac imaging I'm interested in. Or we could go broader and say any type of non-invasive cardiac imaging, which could include, MRI, cardiac MRIs, and a broad variety of other things. But again, for now, we're just going to say echocardiogram and stroke, keep things basic and broad. So we'll search here, and again, we're on our basic search. We should return probably somewhere around 500 or so hits if I remember correctly. Yep, and we're looking at 425 hits here. Now, that's a lot of information to parse through even if we're just reading titles of articles, so let's narrow that search down a little bit. In order to do that, we're going to jump over here to our advanced search up here beside the basic search function. Now, advanced search gives us a pretty significant amount of empty criteria that we can select to narrow down our search. So we're just going to pick a few and see if we can knock this down to the 100, 150 articles. That way it'd be a lot easier to parse through titles and make decisions from there. So looking through here, I do want only full text data, so data that I can read from top to bottom, front to back. And we would like our research to be peer reviewed so that we have more comfort in knowing that this research is valid and reproducible. So those are both good selections to make. We're also going to move over here to year. For the purposes of this course, we're only interested in research conducted in the last 5 years. So we will put our start date as 2018 and add no end date so that it runs right up to today. As we move down through here, another thing that I'm interested in is focusing solely on academic journals. Now, most of this should be covered with the peer-reviewed selection made up here, but it's not going to hurt to overlap a little bit there. We could do select for what document types we want, but I'm not going to do that. We want to take really whatever as long as it falls within these categories. So we'll keep moving down here. We've got interesting selectables for the Cyanol Complete database, a few here for the ebook collection. Each grouping of database, or each database separate from the group, has its own selections that can be made to narrow down searches. So for instance, we could choose that we want a cover story that was on the front page of Health Source Nursing and Academic Edition. Again, that we don't want to do right now. I am going to choose that we want English in our books over this way. And that shouldn't be a huge problem, but with regular textbooks, we're much more likely to get foreign responses than we are the very wide and very large number of research studies available to us. So we'll go ahead and stop there and perform this search again. So we're going to go back up here and look, echocardiogram and stroke, exact same keywords. So let's run the search again and see if we can't get a little bit lower than 400 or so. Yep, beautiful. So we're looking at 157, pretty much right what we were discussing and being interested in a moment ago. So with this, we can now go through our journals and whatnot with the comfort of mind knowing that we're going to be looking at journals that we can absolutely use here, that are going to be peer reviewed. We're going to have full text so we can definitely read through the entire thing. Publication types, we're going to be our academic journals, language is going to be English, all these things, and of course more if we'd like to add them. Will just help drill down a little bit better, maybe exclude 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 handful of data, but it will offer us more selectability in our final options. So we'll scroll through these here. Now, I would be at this moment just reading titles and looking for anything that might kind of catch my eye as being related to cardiac imaging and stroke and showing a connection between the two in some capacity. So first thing that jumps right out at me is cardiovascular MRI, a valuable tool to detect cardiac source of emboli and cryptogenic ischemic strokes. This is virtually a rewording of the question that I just made. This will be an excellent tool for us because it deals with the relationship between cardiac imaging and ischemic strokes, and also is in support of utilizing this tool. So will probably give us some pros and cons to the usage of such a tool, or again, something like echocardiograms in ischemic stroke patients. So we would definitely use that one and just kind of keep strolling. So we'll look for anything that jumps out to us here, or cardiac mechanisms, an incident of ischemic stroke. Very, very interested. Pretty related to our topic, but not entirely related because it is focusing more on the mechanics and less on the relationship between how we identified the mechanics and the stroke itself. So we'll keep going down through here. Now, I would personally probably wind up going through all 5 of these pages, and I say probably because I actually already did. That's how I selected my articles that we're using up here, and it really didn't take much time. Another very interesting article here, the accuracy of stroke risk analysis system for predicting AFib in patients in the postoperative period of myocardial revascularization. So that is interesting to me because in this study, they appear to be using a standard assessment tool in a very novel way to assess for something that it was not designed to assess for. I think that's very interesting and could have some very interesting data to offer for our research. However, it's just a little bit too far away from our topic, so we'll leave that alone and keep moving on. And I'm going to stop here. We see what the general idea is for looking for and selecting articles to read. So I wound up initially pulling 6 articles, all of which were either closely related or somewhat tenuously related to our initial topic and our PICOS question. And of those 6, I then selected 3 as we were tasked to do. So of those 3 articles that we chose, I've already got them open. So if we take a look at these articles, we'll see that here we just have an abstract. However, we do have access to the full text in PDF form. And I might have been logged out. Yes, I was logged out of that. We'll not worry about that. Here we're looking at the HTML full text, so an online version of the full text of this article, which is cardiovascular MRI, which we have already discussed earlier. So, of course, we've got access to data, to their protocols, to how they gathered information. Very useful in not only helping us set up our own studies, but also giving a clear background and something to compare other studies to when aggregating information for a literature review. The final article I chose is the morphological and functional characteristics of mitral annular calcification and their relationship to stroke. So this may seem a little bit strange compared to the other 2 articles that we looked at, but what we're doing here is effectively identifying some type of physical or morphological issue or problem in the heart, in the mitral valve in particular, and then drawing a relationship between those problems and incidence of stroke. So while this may seem on its face not too connected, we've had to use some type of cardiac imaging to identify these morphological abnormalities, and they are going to be related to stroke specifically in this study. So it's actually a very useful study that can support data that we get from our other studies, which is an interesting way to use this research. But as you do more research, you'll come to find that you need support for the support for the support for your supporting argument. So you never want to be caught without a little bit of backup on the information stage. So those are my 3 articles here. Of these articles, I think that we could pull at least some good information to send us down another rabbit hole as far as the relationship between echocardiograms following initial strokes and the likelihood of a patient to return to the hospital. Now, this is a topic I'm very interested in and very likely is going to be a topic that I focus my capstone project on. But nonetheless, there's a really, really good question here that hits all of our high points of our methodology and allows us to sort of pick and choose some studies that maybe don't tie directly to our topic, but do still give us valuable insight into information relating to the association between cardiac imaging and stroke. So I'm going to go ahead and hop off the computer now, and we'll jump back onto our camera. See y'all in a second. Dear Diary, do you ever wonder why we're here? Oh. All right, guys. So it looks like other Chad's finished up over there. So I think that's going to about do this for us this weekend. We've talked about what a literature review is and the importance of them in both qualitative and quantitative study. We've identified a PICO question that we could use to formulate the basis of a literature review, and we've touched quickly on how to search scholarly databases for information. Obviously, this is just a very, very basic review of these skills, and they're ones that you will continue to hone throughout the rest of your adult life if you choose to research and study science and healthcare as a profession. So I look forward to hearing what everybody else has to say about this. And I apologize for rambling. It's been a long day, and sometimes you just got to talk at a computer screen. Y'all have a good rest of your day, guys. See you later.